Hi folks, welcome to Old Bridge Outlook with Mayor Owen Henry. This is a program that permits the mayor to share his thinking with you on things taking place in the township and to introduce you to some folks making things happen in the township. Mayor, how you doing today?
Good, Gene. Thanks for having me again.
Well, Mayor, always a pleasure. Since last we met, the summer's got a little hotter.
A little hotter. It's what it's supposed to be here in New Jersey.
And
good for the shore towns.
Yeah. We appreciate that. And I noticed along with the heat of the summer comes the heat of repaving around the township.
As anyone driving around town, they see a lot of action going on. This is the completion of the 14 capital paving projects. Right. And we'll soon, as I said last time, the 15 projects to get them started and help have substantial completion of the 15 projects. So the work going on this summer is going to get even busier and more, more hectic, as we like to say, and finish it up before the weather comes in, which we're already thinking about.
Yeah, I'm sure you are.
You know, it's the hot days in July. You know, we're gearing up for those cold days in January and February.
Don't even mention those, Mayor. I think we had those already.
They're coming.
I think we've been there. Mayor, since last we met, I think you had a distinction of attending the high school graduations.
Yes.
How did that go?
I look forward to that every year, Gene, to see the quality of the class and how smart these graduates are that leave Old Bridge High School, and I need to see that. And the parents, just a great day for Old Bridge to send over 700 individuals, young men and women, into either the work field, and most of them go on to secondary education. And I'm so proud of our seniors here in Old Bridge. It says a lot about our community.
And you've sort of been tracking some of these students through the reading program.
Yeah, it's going to be a while before I see them graduate from high school.
Yeah.
But I see them in 3rd and 4th grade now. I started reading to the 1st graders when I became mayor. And I see them now. I see them in the store. It's always or anywhere I go, it's always a great feeling to say, "Hi, Mayor Henry, remember me? You read to me." And they know what book I read, and they're smart kids.
Mayor, when you attend a graduation, what message do you try to convey to them?
Just that I'm proud of them. I try to shake as many hands. First of all, I thank the parents for choosing Old Bridge to raise a family. I mean, that's when my parents chose Old Bridge so many years ago, and I think it had so much to do with me growing up here in Old Bridge. Affected my personality, my community involvement. I think it was all here because of how I was treated in Old Bridge. So that's the message to the parents. First of all, thanking them to bring their children into the world.
Right.
And thanking them for picking Old Bridge to choose to raise their family. And now, I think we have an obligation as a community to be ready for these young men and women from 4 to 6 years from now when they do come back from school, to have a place for them to work, have a place for them to live. I know it's ambitious, and a lot of youngsters move over to the city or move outside the state. I mean, we have alumni all over the world.
Yes.
My son is in Japan right now, so
really,
we invest a tremendous amount of money, taxpayers in Old Bridge, into every student. If you just figure, if they're here for the 13 years, and whatever the average might be, $10,000 to $15,000 a year when they were here, we have a tremendous investment into that young person. So we need them to go out and then come back and start paying off the return on investment as a businessman. Just come to Old Bridge and buy a home and raise a family and start paying the taxes that were paid into you. So it's a vicious cycle, Gene.
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor. And folks, I think talking about the graduation leads us to the introduction of our guest today, also from the school system. We're delighted to welcome in our Superintendent of Schools, David Cittadino.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And always a pleasure, Dr. Cittadino, Superintendent Cittadino. And also with us today is our Assistant Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Kathleen Hoeker. And welcome to you, Dr. Hoeker.
Thank you, and thank you for having me as well.
Since last we met, Superintendent, we see that you were given a rather unique designation, I believe. A National School of Character Award was given to the Old Bridge Township schools. Can you elaborate on it a little bit?
Sure. Well, I mean, we couldn't be more proud as a district, and I think as a community, to have this designation as a National School District of Character. And I believe in the 2015 school year, one of only 3 districts nationwide to receive this recognition. And I think that speaks volumes about our school, our parents, and our community working together to make Old Bridge a better place to raise and educate our children. But I really have to say that this movement started quite a few years back when Dr. Hoeker was the principal at Shepherd School, and that became our first state school of character and our first national school of character. And when she really worked for the district and wanted to help us raise the bar at Madison Park School, she went over there and duplicated that success there. So she's really our champion for character education, and she could probably educate us best on the process and why we were so successful at it.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. Dr. Hoeker, I think you're on. Having given you that introduction, what does this award mean to the township? What does it mean to the school system to be so recognized?
We have put ourselves in a position where our students are being recognized for what they give back to the community, how they behave, how they treat one another, their efforts to collaborate, to work as a team. And it's not just our students, it's our staff, it's our parents working with the staff, working with the students to provide more opportunities and better opportunities for our students instructionally and in the workplace. We are establishing very high expectations. And our students, they're not only expectations that we've set for ourselves and we've set for our students, but now our students have for one another.
And what kind of process do you go through to reach this status? Do you have an application process? Do they come to you? Do you go to them? This organization we'll talk about in a minute. How does it take place? It's a lengthy application process, and there's two levels. There's a state level, and then there's the national level. So for New Jersey, you have the New Jersey Alliance for Social and Emotional Character Development. And you complete an application which was established by the character.org, which is the national organization. Yes.
They work jointly, the two organizations. So when you submit the application, it first is reviewed at the state level, and if you receive that distinction, it is forwarded on to the national level. The application was established around 11 principles that the character.org created. And they're the guiding principles to help you to make sure that you have everything in place and that you're looking at things in your school system, both the involvement of the stakeholders, the sustainability of your efforts, and that's a key piece, the academic component. Well, I probably couldn't recite all 11 principles right now, but principle 11 is the data collection and making sure that you're looking at what you have in place, again, to make sure that it's sustainable and making sure that there is a tie-in to the instructional component, the student academic development, and their intrinsic motivation, and the results. And we've utilized that principle 11 to really help educate both our board members,
Right.
our community members, our staff, our students on what our results are.
But this spans more. It spans social, it spans emotional, it spans educational, right? A number of issues, if I read correctly.
Definitely. Caring, trustworthy, creating well-rounded students who are community-driven, intrinsically driven, that they're looking to not only better themselves, but better the environment around them.
Superintendent, to that point, doesn't it fall on you as the superintendent? It sort of permeates downward from your office pretty much, doesn't it, to achieve that with all the principals and all the various constituencies?
I think you're hitting right on it, that leadership has to model the expectations, not only for the staff, but for your students. And we've tried to do that. We've tried to put programs in place, like Pay It Forward days, where staff members will reach out to us and say, listen, I would like a staff release day so I can go out and work with Make-A-Wish Foundation or Relay for Life. And if we're available, we'll cover their class for the day. If not, we'll get a substitute to cover for the day, because we want to pay it forward. We want to have impact not just within the school district, but within the community. And I want the children in the classroom to know that the teachers are doing that as well, that my teacher's not here today, but my teacher's not here for a good reason. My teacher's out making the community better.
And it gives them an incentive to the principals and the teachers to drive the students too. I noticed there was some mention of clothing drives, a Play-Doh award, I believe, was mentioned in there. So this permeates throughout, I take it. The whole idea.
And we're encouraging our students to drive these initiatives.
Right.
They're
That's
not
interesting.
just placed in a position where we say, okay, we've built a relationship, you come join us. It's they're bringing ideas to us. I mean, you can speak to regarding AJ and his drive, and these are students from the elementary all the way through high school that are developing initiatives that are helping the greater community, but then they go nationwide.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering one thing. When the national organization is called character.org, as
Correct.
you mentioned, did they make any attempt to define the word character? What is character?
It has been an increasing topic of conversation.
Yeah.
That, you know, when we talk about character education, and I almost don't like to say, well, you know, it's character education. It's character development. It's all encompassing. It should be part of everything that we do. It's not a separate lesson that you can teach. It's not even the financial component. It's not something that you need additional money to purchase books. It's just part of what every child should be developing as they and adults.
Yeah, it comes back, Mayor, I think, to what you said about when you see these students along the way, both from the 3rd and 4th grade reading to them, you see them up through graduation. It comes back to and resonates in some of what you just said.
The district is, you know, I've never had a bad experience with the district, and I'm all in, you know, when it comes to
Right.
education.
I
Big
know.
believer in education,
Yeah.
and answer to all our questions, problems rather. And you know, unfortunately, we had an incident I don't know how long ago where the district got a black eye, you know, to high school with the, you know, some poor actions by young men resulted in the death of an Old Bridge resident.
Yes.
So, and we've I think the community has fought back with a vengeance.
I think so.
And you know, so proud of it. We're competitive. Old Bridge needs to be competitive.
Yeah,
You know, we compete
as
with
we
7
have taught.
surrounding
Yes,
communities.
yes.
And we need every edge we can get. And having a district like this, I think, it raises the property values here in town, which is good for the town. And if anyone's looking to make a decision and they're on the fence, hey, Old Bridge has a better school district. Let's go here. And it's not only, you know, the public schools. We have a fantastic private school. There's, you know, opportunity here in Old Bridge for parents if they'd
Right.
like to take advantage of that. So I can't say enough good things about education here in Old Bridge. And I'm
Okay.
here to do anything we possibly can. Always looking for shared services. We're looking to improve the field conditions here in town
Right.
on our side so that the kids have better places to play any sports they wish to play.
Yeah.
So we're in.
I see that.
And I've been called a character before, so I don't think it's the same character
Okay.
that we're talking about in the schools.
Okay, you know, Superintendent, there's one thing I think that's really tangible. It seems to have come out of this, and this is, I noticed the figures, the reduction in some of the bad things that have taken place, the violence in the school system, the vandalism, things we've discussed before, the bullying, I know was a topic of our discussion. You feel that comes from this initiative?
Oh, I definitely do. There's a strong connection, and there's a strong connection on the positive side of it to our academic performance. So if you look to the event that the mayor has spoken about, going back quite a few years, what I like to call is probably our low, our rock bottom morally as a community, and probably put us under the microscope of the media for the wrong reasons. And a lot of that because they were high school students. I think the community lost trust a little bit about the school and its product, the school system and its product. And something that we recognized right away working together is that we have to improve our brand, and we have to repair that trust. And that trust has to come within the community. So if you look at that year, and that's when we tracked the data, since that time, we've tracked a 44% reduction in violence and vandalism in our schools from that time in 2009-10 to the current year. There were years where there was 180 events of violence and vandalism and substance abuse tracked into schools from grades kindergarten through 12th. Last year was 75. So this year we're on target to drop it even lower. And so you look at that and you see a trend in bullying decreasing. And bullying is decreasing across the state because the very strict HIB laws.
Right.
And I think there was a lot of over-reporting in the beginning, and that's leveled off. But still, in Old Bridge, we're still seeing that decrease. And what that speaks to is a positive, improved cultural learning environment. If I feel safe in school, I'm going to want to spend more time in school.
Yeah.
if my staff that worked very hard, none of this would be possible without the teachers, the paraprofessionals, the support staff in the schools, if they're more proud of the product that they're putting out in the schools, they're going to spend a little more time working with those children, and the results are going to be there. So, like we've just said, our SAT scores are the highest in Old Bridge history. We were just placed on the College Board, which does the SAT testing, on their AP honor roll for our AP programs, which means that we've increased the results of our AP testing while increasing the number of AP students taking tests. So we're on track to do great things, and I believe, and I know that Dr. Hoeker agrees, that the culture and climate of our schools is at the base for why we're seeing that improvement.
Okay, well, thank you, Superintendent. I'm going to ask you to hold your thoughts for a moment, please. Folks, we're going to take a break right now. We'll be back in a moment to continue our discussion about the Old Bridge school system.
You can be a hero by being prepared for an emergency. First, make a plan. Call a family meeting to plan for things like how to connect with loved ones after an emergency.
There.
Or your escape route.
I am not fast.
Build a kit. When disaster strikes, it's important to have enough supplies to last 3 days. And don't forget the batteries.
Low battery.
Number 3, know the facts. From blackouts to floods, no matter the emergency, the more you know about it, the better you can deal with it.
You're gonna need some upgrades.
Number 4, get involved. Lend a hand in your community to help others know their role in an emergency.
You guys, do you feel this? We're gonna be heroes!
You can be a hero by being prepared.
Yes!
Visit ready.gov/kids for more preparedness tips.
Folks, welcome back to Old Bridge Outlook with Mayor Owen Henry. Today we're delighted to welcome in our guest, our Superintendent of Schools, David Cittadino, and the Assistant Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Kathleen Hoeker. Folks, thanks again for being here.
Pleasure to be here again.
If we
Thank
can
you.
pick up where we left off, we were talking about an honored award you just received. I'd like to segue a little bit, if I could, to another thing seems much in the news lately, and that's, we've discussed off air too, is a Common Core. Here, the pros, the cons about it. Where do we stand?
So, going back about 5 years, the Common Core was developed and authored under the direction of the National Governors Association. And really the goal of it was to bring continuity to the educational expectations of all schools, all districts across the country.
Which seems admirable.
Right. And I think there's good ideas there. But I guess the questions that were raised during that time were, where did the ideas or where did the philosophies embedded in these standards come from? Were they, was there enough stakeholder voice from around the country into these Common Core standards? So there's been a lot of hot topic and debate around that nationally. And right now in New Jersey, as we stand, in May, the governor announced that we would be moving away from the Common Core and into more state-developed, New Jersey's own version of the Common Core, which is not much different than we've had standards in this country going, in the state of New Jersey going back 10 plus years. So that's not going to be that big of a change. I know that myself, Kathy, my administrative team, my teachers, my support staff, no matter what the standards to stay, we're going to do our job to make sure that the children of Old Bridge get the top-notch education that they deserve.
And you mentioned, Superintendent, off the air that a lot of emphasis has been on assessment. More should be put on instructional methods in the classroom. Am I interpreting you correctly?
Right. So you've heard a lot about PARCC testing and assessment, and what concerns me as an educator is that we're spending a lot of time looking at assessment, not for the measure of the student, but its connection to the educator in the classroom, the teacher. And we have professionals in place, and it's their job to evaluate our staff. I'd like to spend more time reflecting upon that so we can really put that type of resources towards the instructional practices that we have in the classroom, and to put greater resources in the classroom for our students to take advantage.
Well, thank you. And Dr. Hoeker, the instructional practices, what would that entail taking place in the classroom? Because obviously it goes to the betterment of the students.
I think that the much of the data that we collect now regarding the student growth and the conversations that take place between our collaborative teams in the building helps us to look at what strategies can be used for each individual student. One of our programs that we implemented this year, the response to intervention, really defines that. We looked at students that could be struggling learners and really outlined what key areas they were struggling in, and teams did this. We had team members between grade levels, our child study team, our interventionists all work together to define the areas that needed to be targeted and then provide that specific targeted instruction so that the student could move on from the struggling area that particular skill. And we've seen a tremendous amount of success. Really? So it's these teams that work together discussing what the individual needs of the students are, and just more time for that. I think we would see even more growth in our students, and we would see fewer and fewer students being evaluated and potentially close the gap between the areas of difficulty from we see a lot of from 3rd grade to 5th grade. If we could target these areas in the lower grades and spend more time looking at that, I think our student, our instruction would improve and our student growth would improve even more.
Can I ask you a question? And we didn't discuss it, but what's the biggest challenge today in teaching young people? Would you say?
Time. I think
That's
time.
exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, I feel as though even if you're looking at the character education model, there's no real curriculum for it. There's no real, this is lesson you're going to do. That's not the way we looked at in Old Bridge. We want to make sure that, we have time in the day to ensure that we're infusing that in our classrooms. But you tie that in with everything else that schools are responsible for educating children for. There's a world language component at the elementary level. There's a music component, and you take that and you bring that all the way up to the high school level on the demands of classes like personal finance. The day hasn't expanded. The calendar hasn't expanded, but the expectation of what schools to be educating the children about, that's expanded. So we don't want to shortchange our children. We want to provide them with enough time to really cover everything they need to be successful.
And if I could just add, there's a human component that is so easy to lose sight of, that our students come to us with such a diverse background, and whether it's cultural, whether it's their home situation, there's so many components to that the teachers now have in their classrooms, and they have to have the time to get to know their student, to get to know what it is that makes things click for them, and to understand that a student who doesn't have their homework maybe doesn't have their homework because of a situation that truly is going on, that they're the one that's responsible when they go home, and maybe they're making dinner, and maybe those are things that need to come into play when a teacher is educating a child, and we need more time for that.
Yeah, Mayor, I can understand that too. As a lay people looking at this, it must be tremendously difficult.
The amount of information that these kids are, and the teachers are responsible. It's twice as much as the information we had.
We went to school. History was a lot shorter.
It was a lot shorter history. But now it's just, technology and the amount of information is just overwhelming.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure you don't, they're still young. We're dealing with youngsters here. You don't want to, create emotional problems. We're trying to educate through education. You don't want to make the situation worse.
Yep.
And as Dr. Hoeker said, the diversity here in Old Bridge is. When I go into the elementary schools, it's amazing, and they're getting it. They're getting it right.
But some of the children are obviously getting it right, because you mentioned off air that some of your students have gone on to other countries.
Yes, they have. They've had the opportunity this year to be in France, Germany, Italy.
Is these co-op programs type thing?
A variety.
Right, there's
German one was
a little bit. There's some of it's a exchange program. So the German program, an exchange program, we had students from Germany visit us here.
I
visit the
remember
mayor's
that.
office.
They were introduced at the council meeting. Yes,
and then some of our students reciprocated and went back to Germany. The Italian program were students who actually studied at a university in Italy. And that was great feedback we received from that school that really never offered it to high schools before because they didn't think students were ready. But the feedback we received, a letter from the school in Italy that said, we would be willing to open this up to high school students in the future because the children from Old Bridge were above and beyond what we expected. And we were so proud of them just for receiving that recognition. And then, of course, our marching band was in June in France, in the Normandy region. And I couldn't be more proud of them, the way they represented this country. They were marching through streets of towns in a parade that were liberated. They played at 2 American cemeteries that are there. Yeah. And they were so impressed by them, they actually played on national French radio.
Did they really?
The national French radio was doing a live feed at one of the parades and took them aside and had them play live on national French radio. So,
and
really
they were the only high school there.
Yes. They were the only high school represented there. The other marching band that was there was the Ohio State Marching Band alumni group.
Yeah, I remember when I think it was Miss Thatcher
Yes.
was in here on one of the programs, talked about the fundraising and the effort with the mayor. That in itself has got to be a tremendous reward to you folks as administrators, just to see that kind of achievement.
Yes.
If I could segue just a little bit, looking forward to the school year coming up. I know we just finished one.
Yeah.
Next one will be on us before we know it. How was the kindergarten program recognized this year, Superintendent? Last year when you were in here, you talked about it was going to be a full-day program. How did it go?
I couldn't be more excited and happy with it. You know, it was, I would say, one, more successful than we originally had foreseen. Students filled our schools with parents really took advantage of this opportunity. And for many parents, it was a real financial windfall for them. If they were paying for full-day kindergarten elsewhere so they can, work when you have, both parents are working, this was an opportunity for us to educate their child. And then if I look at the results from it anecdotally, just from visiting the kindergarten teachers, we're seeing students that have, basing on their reading on sight words. On a good half-year program, they were looking at 30 sight words. Now the students are mastering 50 to 100 sight words. Really? And really entering the first grade this year, and that's what we're excited about. Ready to read, and they're already writing, half paragraphs in kindergarten. Talk about it would change what we've gone through. I mastered recess and finger painting when I was in kindergarten. And but that's the good thing about it too. There's enough time in there that we still ensured that there was time for the children to play in kindergarten as well, because play is the greatest part of social and emotional learning for any animal or child.
Yes.
That we all learn through play, and
right.
the children really have the opportunity to learn and play together. And I think putting them in a peer group like that really helped them.
That's tremendous. Good. I'm glad it's worked out so well. Dr. Hoeker, what can we look forward to for the next semester? What's coming? What can the students look
I
forward
think
to?
there's a lot of great things that are coming. I'm very excited for our first grade teachers. They will be implementing a new reading program, the Journeys program. And I can't wait to hear what they say about our full-day kindergartners going into first grade and how much more they're able to accomplish. I'm also very excited for our new teachers. We have quite a few new teachers coming into Old Bridge this year, and some of our mentor programs and our professional development that we'll be providing to them to support them as they begin their new careers.
Well, thank you very much. And speaking of time, I think our time is just about expiring here on me as we're talking. But I would like to thank you for coming in today. Always a pleasure, Superintendent, to have you with us. And Dr. Hoeker, thank you for joining us today. Mayor, a good overview of the school system today.
Yeah, it's a great system, Gene. Parents need to support it. You have to come out and be involved in your child's education. As a parent, that's your obligation. Don't expect the district to be their mother, their father, to discipline them. I mean, the parents need to play a role in the district, in their education.
And I'd like to congratulate you again on this National District of Character Award, and I know you'll be out publicizing it to sell the school system to the people who may be looking at Old Bridge to live.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank the mayor for working with us on that. We're looking to get some signs at the entry points of every road coming into Old Bridge. So everybody passing through will know this is a great place to raise a child because the community comes together.
Tremendous, tremendous job, and much luck. Have a good summer. I know you don't get as much time off as the students do, but I know you're hard at work, but enjoy yourself.
There's no snowstorm, so
There's
I'm
no
happy.
snowstorms, but do enjoy the summer. Have a good vacation as such as you may get it. Thank you again for
You as
being
well.
with
Thank
us.
you for having us.
Thank you.
And folks, this has been Old Bridge Outlook with Mayor Owen Henry. I'm Gene McGlark. I want to thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for our next program. We'll see you again. Take care.